Shalom and welcome to Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Today, we're looking at Deuteronomy chapter 7. To introduce myself, this is Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible, a channel where we look at the truth about the scriptures. We compare the Septuagint, which is the text, the authoritative voice of scripture in the time of Jesus Christ or Yeshua HaMashiach. It was 300 years before he came to the earth as a human being, the son of Mary and Joseph, and we compare that with the Masoretic text, which is the text, the version of scriptures that the majority of Bibles are translated from. That came 300 years after Jesus Christ had already lived, died, and was resurrected, and was not completed until 1,000 years after he came. So that's what we do in this channel. And so let's get to it. We have Deuteronomy chapter 7. There are 26 verses in this chapter. Beginning in verse 1, the word great nations versus many nations. So you can see the distinction there. But however, numerous, it does describe them as numerous. These nations are more numerous and stronger than you versus that they are greater than you. So they're not simply greater or mightier using adjectives like that, but they are, to put it simply, they're just more numerous. There's more of them, more people in terms of population. Verse 2 contradicts the commandment of thou shalt not kill as it was expressed in the Masoretic text just a couple of chapters ago, or within the early chapters of Deuteronomy, where it says in the Septuagint correctly, you shall not murder, not kill. So it says here that you shall smite them. You're going to utterly destroy them. So that means to take their lives. So this contradicts that commandment. This is also a divine decree. This is Yah who's commanding them to do this, similar to how Yah even commanded Abraham to kill his own son or to sacrifice him. That was, in fact, killing, and that is bypassed when it is a direct command from Yah. He knows Yah Elohim. He knows the big picture. He knows exactly the reasons why certain people should be killed. Verse 3, we see here the word contract. Neither shall you contract marriages versus make marriages. Verse 4, he will draw away your son from me versus they will turn away. And then an addition of the word following, from following me versus just from me. So it's not simply just following him, but there's a relationship there. Verse 4, draw versus turn. Oh, I said that already. He will serve other gods versus they may. So one is more certain, he will versus they might. So I'll just qualify that. Versus possibility. So it's not as strong of a possibility. And it says, be very angry with you versus to kindle. So that is a continuous difference we notice. We also notice here utterly destroy versus destroy you suddenly. Moving on to verse 5, the continuous difference here of pillars and images. Verse 6, be to him a peculiar people beyond all nations versus a special people unto himself above all people. But peculiar is not a negative trait, it is positive. Verse 7, preferred, Yah preferred you versus set his love upon you. And then we can see that this being more specified here, it's more detailed as to what that meant in terms of more numerous. It says you are fewer in number than all nations versus fewest of all people. So that could mean many different things, but it is more specific in the Septuagint. Verse 9, we see the word mercy for them versus mercy with them. In verse 10, we have an omission of the word utterly. Destroy them utterly, completely, 100% destruction. No one spared, no prisoners. Verse 12, keep for you. Yah, your Elohim, shall keep for you, versus keep unto you. Verse 13, the offspring of your body, which includes both men and women, versus the fruit of your womb, which seems more gender exclusive to only women. It says here, Yah swore versus he swore, so they removed the divine name, the Masoretic. And that verse 14, beyond all nations versus above all people. An omission of impotent. No one will be impotent among the people. So that was omitted. It's just describing male being barren, but more specifically, it's impotent because a male cannot be barren. We have an omission in verse 15. So describing the sicknesses, the diseases, excuse me, which you have seen, that was omitted. They did witness it with their own eyes, what the Egyptians had lived through and the plagues that were put upon them or laid upon them. Verse 16, a big difference here. This might be the title of the video, I'm not sure right now. You shall eat all the spoils of the nations versus you shall consume all the people. So one is focusing on the possessions being consumed, being eaten, versus potentially, I hate to say this, but cannibalism maybe. But that's what, it's open up to that interpretation, unfortunately. Continuing on, it says offense. This is an offense to you versus a snare to you. So an offense will certainly hurt or harm you versus simply trap you. Verse 17, significant difference. How shall I be able to destroy them utterly versus dispossess them? And that seems to be continuous difference throughout. Surely, in verse 18, you shall surely remember versus you shall well remember. So one again is more certain, 100%, you shall surely remember versus you might remember it well. You can remember it well, but there's still open to being not remembered. Verse 19, there's nothing we're looking at there. Oh, there's an omission of great wonders. So these are great wonders, not just plain wonders for such a thing. Verse 20, we have the hornets versus hornet. It's not just one hornet. An omission of utterly destroyed. So they're going to be completely destroyed. Big difference in verse 21. You shall not be wounded before them versus you shall not be affrighted at them. So Yah is telling them they will not be hurt or wounded and perhaps killed, but no. The Masoretic is saying, no, you just won't be scared. People get scared, so I'm going to go with the Septuagint with this one. Great versus terrible. A great and powerful Elohim versus a mighty El and terrible. So terrible means amazing, but great is very similar. So it's not I wouldn't say a big difference. Verse 22, consume these nations versus put out. So it's one thing to kick them out, but to consume them might mean imply destruction. You shall not be able to consume them speedily versus you may not consume them at once. At once. Not all at once, so I have to correct that. So it's one thing to consume them in one day, but it's one thing to do it, another thing altogether to be able to do this speedily in quick fashion. An omission here, significant difference, lest the land become desert or wilderness, or actually wilderness means a desert, but desert or desert probably means desertion or implying desolation. An omission of the word wild in conjunction with beasts. So these aren't just any normal domesticated animals, these are wild beasts. be multiplied against thee versus increase upon you. So they might just increase in population, but if they're multiplied against you, uh, they're multiplying for the purpose of taking you out or competing with you for the resources in the land. Verse 23, into your hands, to your hands, they will be delivered versus unto you. An omission of you shall have utterly destroyed them versus, versus nothing. It just says they be destroyed. So saying here, you shall, they're going to be the ones to carry out the destruction, complete destruction. 24, from that place versus from under heaven. Continuous difference of utterly. I won't repeat that. 25, you should offend. You should offend thereby by taking their images or their gold or silver from the images versus you be ensnared. So you're going to be trapped in it? No, you're actually going to offend. You're going to offend Yah because it is an abomination to him. And it says here in verse 26, the last difference we're going to look at, you shall utterly hate it and altogether abominate it. I never heard this described in terms of a verb or being verbalized, to abominate something. On the other hand, the Masoretic is saying to utterly abhor it. So hate and abhor are very similar. Detest is a synonym for abhor, and so is hate. So abominate means something completely different. An abomination is really a very serious offense, very intensely hated and completely disgusting, just an abomination. It's probably the most extreme description of something that Yah hates. So to abominate something means you don't just hate something very much, you hate it to the extreme level that is unthinkable. It's accursed. So that's all I have for you for this video, for this chapter, Deuteronomy chapter 7. Thank you very much for your time. May Yah bless you and make way prosperous. You've been watching Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Peace be unto you from the Father, Elohim, and the Son, Yeshua HaMashiach.